I have a special interest
Yes.
in this from the day, it was about 3 years ago now, since I met Karen Keeley from Oaks, Ireland, and I've met the other parents involved, and there are parents in Mayo as well who are impacted by this. So I have sat down with those parents over the last few years. There does seem to be now being more interest taken in this issue by the media, and I know you would have got a copy of an article that I contributed to in the Medical Independent.
Yes, I have it in front of me by Catherine Riley.
Yeah, and I want to commend Catherine Riley as well for she did a very good feature on that, looking at all aspects of it. And I do think there will be further media attention to it in the future, because it is a scandal and it's a terrible injustice. And I know you might say, well, it only affects a small number of people, but it resonates with an awful lot of people as well. And it doesn't matter. If it only affected one, it doesn't matter. And the question is, why are we treating children in this state different than they're being treated in France and in Britain, particularly in France? Because in France they have been investigating this. They've had an inquiry and they've set up a compensation scheme as well to ensure that these children and these families are looked after. And why is this government so resistant? They're so resistant to there was the report. See, for the last 18 months they've been hiding behind the report, or there's a report going to be done, there's a report going to be done. Now that report is on the Minister's desk since October. And that's why I raised it again in the Health Committee with him recently, is, are you going to publish the report? Now, I've seen sight of that report. I'm not at all happy with the report, because I think it's very limited and it doesn't address the situation of who knew what and when, and it doesn't refer at all to the need for an independent investigation and a public inquiry into it.
So you want to set up a public inquiry that will have more teeth?
I want it to be, yes, it wouldn't be me to set it up, but I want government to set it up. And I want it to be, not more teeth, I want the truth. I really want the truth about what has happened with this drug and why it continued to be prescribed when they knew what the impact was going to be. You have families now where they have children with 2 and maybe 3 children with disabilities, directly caused because of the mothers taking these drugs because they didn't know. So we want the public inquiry into it. I do want to commend as well, Jerry, Michael Harty, Deputy Michael Harty, who has actually just announced that he's
stepping down,
election. He's an extremely good person. I've been very impressed with him in the way that he's handled the whole of the Health Committee. And I've had many conversations with him around Valproate, and he has facilitated those discussions. And those discussions, again, that we're scheduled to bring in at Epilepsy Ireland and Oaks Ireland later on in the month into the Health Committee as well. So I just do want to thank him for all his work.
And Rose, what's the up-to-date position with the drug?
The drug, well, now what they've done in the last couple of years is that they have given out more information.
The company have?
The company have, but the government have as well, in terms of GPs and clinicians who are prescribing it. So now we have packaging, and this is thanks to the work that's been done by Oaks Ireland and others as well. Now we have packaging which would clearly state that you shouldn't take this drug if you're at risk of becoming pregnant. So they have, that's what was recommended by the European Medical Agency. So that is being done in the last couple of years. But it's the children who are born between the mid-70s and, say, up to 3 or 4 years ago that didn't get the information when people knew.
But bringing it up to modern times now, what happens if a lady is on this drug for epilepsy or in latter times for a bipolar condition, and they clearly need this drug for the medical condition they have, and then they become pregnant? What happens then? Like, are they taken off the drug, or is there an alternative drug that can be prescribed? And if there is an alternative drug that can be prescribed, why isn't this prescribed in the first place?
No, I'm not a clinician. These are very, this drug is very effective in the treatment of what it's supposed to treat. But what the difference this time is that the woman would clearly know. She would clearly know what the risks were.
Right.
And they would be discussed with her clinician.
Yes.
And they would medically manage that in a way that it wouldn't be at risk to her unborn child.
So going back historically now again to prior of 2015, you say you can set up the inquiry yourself, and that we know, but you can push hard for it.
Yes.
Like I've been sick saying in the last couple of days, we are approaching a general election and all these things will be up for discussion. Do you feel through your efforts and the efforts of others, retiring Dr. Michael Harty from the Dáil, that an inquiry will be set up? Or will the government definitely try and kick the can down the road in this one because it could mean compensation?
I think they will. They have tried to kick the can down the road. But I can assure you one thing, whether I'm in politics or out of politics, I will never let this go, because there has been a huge injustice done to these parents. I will never let it go. It's way too important. And we must learn as well from other drugs, I suppose, that are being approved now and being licensed now. People need to know the information around the drugs that are being prescribed to them. They need to know. So we cannot have a situation where children are treated differently in France than they are in Ireland. There's an inquiry going on in Britain as well at the moment. That should come to a conclusion within the next 2 months. And I would expect as well that wasn't a full inquiry. That was an investigation into it. But I would expect as well that they would follow along the lines of France. We need to do the same thing. Heaven's sake, we
But
can't.
Other people in other countries have to be affected by this too. Surely it's not down to Ireland, England and France.
No, but it's down. Governments are there to protect their citizens. And what America would be as well, wherever the drug was prescribed.
This is the thing. Clearly, wherever the drug was prescribed, there could be potentially problems, allegedly problems.
Oh yes, there could be, and that's why Switzerland are just opening up to it now as well.
Yeah.
So there will be, but we have to look after our own citizens.
Oh yeah. But I'm just trying to get a global context on it. Like, are there other countries? Like, is this drug prescribed? It's clearly a world drug, and therefore it would be affected. Now, what the basis of the inquiry will be, what you essentially want to know is who knew what and when and how much they knew about the drug. Is that right?
Absolutely. No more, no less. It doesn't have to be a huge, expensive inquiry. People just need to tell the truth. People need to release the documents. Some documents, we've had problems getting documents from the HSE and from other sources, but there's a lot of work being done on it. So we just need to know. We almost have the information.
Yes.
We need the government
in a proper framework
to do the inquiry in a framework where it'll be very clear. And as I said, because they've done it in France, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can follow along those guidelines. I've spoken to the French people as well. There was a very interesting conference early last year where the leaders around this in France and in Wales and in Britain came together as well with information so they can learn from each other too. But it needs the government to take a grip of it and to sort it out once and for all. Nothing will ever make up to these families for what has happened.
Do you believe that the reason the government will drag their feet on it is that it's one thing to find out who knew what, when and where, but that the follow-on from that is, and rightfully so, these people have been affected by life, the children themselves have been affected and their families have been affected, but that the follow-on from that is that compensation will be the next thing, and that the government feel no more than the deafness claims or whatever it might be, that they'll have themselves open up to possibly billions of euro having to be paid out in compensation. Is that the problem?
Well, I suppose there's a relatively small number of families affected by this, so you're probably not talking about billions. But yes, it will cost. But I do think that people have to be accountable. But above anything, these families want to know the truth.
Sure.
It's not a case of money, money looking for money. It's the case of knowing the truth and knowing that, I suppose, just because they feel a lot of, the desperation of feeling that I have done something wrong that has resulted in my child being born or my children
the guilt of that
with a disability. It is.
Yeah.
So, that's why the truth has to be revealed. And there has to be compensation because these children and these families have to be looked after
for
as
life.
Well.
Yep, for life.
They have to have the supports and the services that are there. But I can assure you, they certainly are not motivated by money. Absolutely not. You look into the eyes of those mothers, and as a mother myself, God, it really just resonates.
But Rose, is the reality, and you're long enough in the game to know that we are around the corner from a general election, we're staring that down the barrel, that's going to happen, that's at least a month, and a new government have to be put in place. God knows how long negotiations will take there, because we don't know what the makeup of the next Dáil is going to be. Like, in reality, aren't we talking about at least a year before anything even begins to happen?
Oh, I would hope not. No, I really would hope not. No, this has to be a priority for the next government, whatever government, whatever makeup of a government it has to be. The work is done, the heavy lifting is done. We have all the information, we just need the framework for it to be done. Within. So
the legislature framework.
Yes, there would be no excuse whatsoever for taking another 12 months to do this inquiry. Now, I'd keep pressing Simon Harris on this in terms of him getting his commitment to it. He certainly hasn't ruled it out, and he said publicly within the committees to me that he hasn't ruled out an inquiry. But I need a commitment to that. These parents need a commitment to it. But I think it's something, once the inquiry comes out from Britain as well, I think that will have an impact on it. And I know Britain, Ireland and France, the voluntary groups around this, like Oaks Ireland, are working closely together to push things along.
And like you, the voluntary groups are not going to let this one go easy either.
Oh, they're not.
Yeah.
They have dedicated years to this, to trying to get the truth, and that's all we want.
All right. Well, Rose, for the moment, that's where we have to leave it, but thank you for coming on with the update.
Thank you very much, Darren.